Hi there, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. It is another preview show tonight, guys. We're looking at the St Mirren game on Sunday afternoon. I'll also obviously have another wee look at last night's game against Braga. It's Friday night. We're live on a Friday night, and I am joined by Stewart Weir. How you doing, Stewart? You're on mute. Sorry. That's you. Yeah.
Mute the microphone. That's better. There we go. There's too many mute buttons about here. Nobody wants to listen to me anyway. No, the usual Friday night. I noticed tonight in the billing we were little and large.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure in whether that's from distance or close up. It certainly beats Cagney and Lacey and Starsky and Hutch and the likes that we've had. No, another preview show. It seemed only a couple of weeks ago that we were looking at a kind of 5-game schedule that was going to be pretty stiff and a bit of a test for Rangers. And lo and behold, that's us smack in at the middle of it now, with a 0-2 record this far, which maybe
it's not been great.
Wasn't expected, but no, upward and onward.
Yeah, I mean, April was always going to be a tricky month, and as you say, 2 games into this sort of 8-game run, we're still looking for our first win. Although, I mean, we'll look at last night before we go in and look at Sunday's game. Stuart, I mean, disappointing result and performance. I felt, taking the positives out of it. I mean, one, I didn't think Braga looked all that. I mean, there was a sort of 10-15 minute phase in the first half when you felt the goal was coming. Obviously, they had the goal that was chopped off through VAR. At that stage, I felt the goal was coming. But outside that, I don't really recall McGregor having a huge amount to do. I didn't feel that they put us under a huge amount of pressure. And so from that sort of perspective, you look at it and think, you know what, 1-0, it's not that bad. Full house at Ibrox next week. A great opportunity, the tie's still wide open, and a great opportunity to do the job and get to the semi-finals.
I have seen Rangers play a hell of a lot better and come away with worse results.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take these kind of things into context. 1-0 down is okay. Performance level wise, it wasn't the best. I still think there is an almost inherent lethargy about Rangers, if that's the right way to describe it. I think they seem content to play within themselves and at their own pace and at their own levels of urgency or lacking in urgency, which might be okay if you're out there in the pitch and you know what you're doing and you see the bigger picture. But if you're sitting watching it in TV or you're in the stands, it's not really something you would pay a hell of a lot of money to watch. And I think that has been a consistent with Rangers for the entire season. I think you're right. I think, I was on Talk Sport the other night there, and I said that if, Rangers had to handpick the draw, they would have picked Braga. The other 7 teams would all pick Rangers, let's be honest. And I don't think there was that much between the 2 teams. What I did think, though, was that in terms of their kind of game plan and in terms of playing their own game but stopping Rangers playing as well, I thought Braga got it pretty spot on. And if like me, you're a glutton for punishment and maybe watch these things twice, I think the second time, once you know the outcome, I think you start to see where Braga really pressurised Rangers. I mean, the two fullbacks and the guys that were playing wide, Braga really, really boxed them in to such an extent that Tavernier, if he did get a break or he did get away, he was either chasing a ball that was going to beat him to the byline, or he was running at an angle that was taking him away from the goal, and therefore any danger to Braga. I thought they defensively, they pretty much had it stitched up. Rangers, for the team wise, and I've said it before on here, Colin, there are too many either are content to produce 5 out of 10s every week, or they've actually reached their max. They've maxed out at 5 out of 10s. They've had their wee purple patches where they were doing 6s and 7s and maybe even 8s. But the actual reality is that maybe 5 and 6s is as good as you're going to get out of them just now. Yeah. And I think there needs to be Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is coming under a bit of pressure, but then again, he can only work with the tools that he's given. And, and you're looking at a team that is still, I near enough 100% a Steven Gerrard side. And he was struggling to get a tune out of them before he departed. So I think maybe the criticism in terms of the substitutions and the likes, I can see that. I think I am absolutely bemused in terms of Aaron Ramsey, how he can, him and Gareth Bale, but, can drive their national side towards a place in the World Cup finals, yet he's not deemed either fit enough or ready enough or prepared enough to do it on a domestic basis with Rangers. I find that completely bewildering, and I would really appreciate if that was explained, maybe not just to me, but to explain to everybody what that concept is, or how Gio actually sees that.
Yeah, I mean, the starting 11 last night was, I mean, you obviously as the week wears on and you're approaching the game, you start to see people on social media and all the rest of it, and on the WhatsApp chats, sort of saying, "Oh, this is my team. This is my team." I don't think I've seen anyone predicting the team that Gio went with. I mean, no Roof and no Ramsey was a bit of a surprise for me. I mean, you could argue he maybe got it right with Sakala and Roof because, I think Braga were playing a fairly high line. Sakala, at various points, did get in behind and cause problems. He had a really good chance in the first half. He took a really good touch, took himself away for the defender, but his final shot was a bit poor. And when Roof came on, I thought that's at the point where we started to threaten. It was only 1-0 down, and we thought maybe sneak something here. So you could maybe argue he got it right with Sakala and Roof. But the Ramsey thing really is puzzling me. It really is. As you say, if he's deemed good enough to get Wales to where they are at the moment, if he's deemed good enough for Rangers to pay $2 million to sort of borrow him from now until the end of the season, how can he not possibly feature in a quarter final against Braga? Now, I watched a wee bit of the highlights package last night, and I noticed Owen Hargreaves saying him and Chris Sutton were sort of disagreeing. Sutton was giving it the where's Ramsey, and Owen Hargreaves was sort of going down the line of, well, do you not think tonight was all about just making sure the tie was still alive, get back to Ibrox, and then you bring Ramsey into the equation, then you open up and go for Braga. And I can kind of see that, but to me, a good player's a good player, and you play a good player. If he's good enough to play at this level, which I think we can all agree he is, then surely he should be playing.
It's almost as if his career ambitions are being steered or sort of navigated in the direction of him playing in a World Cup for Wales and being a member of the first Welsh side since 1958 to reach the World Cup finals. It's almost as if he's using Ibrox or Rangers as some kind of glorified training camp to get himself in a state of readiness for the big games that Wales are going to play in terms of the qualifiers, and then if they actually reach the finals. And that bit of it is a bit I just don't get my head around. I mean, I have to say, one or two things have puzzled me over the years, but in fact, several dozen, if truth be told. But that in particular, he comes into Rangers, and he comes in at a time when Rangers need him because Rangers need to kick on. He's not either not fit or not available. The games, he starts running out of game time. The small glimpses that we have seen have been, the sort of cameo performances that he's turned in, he's actually looked quite good. I don't want to demean the guy in any way, shape, or form, but he actually looks as if he knows what he's doing, opposed to other people that are introduced and look completely, bewildered and dazzled by bright lights. And I wish that we actually had seen a bit more of him this far. He might still turn it on. Who knows? He might suddenly be a world beater in the next Old Firm League match, or a world beater in the Cup semi-final and win the Cup and drive Rangers to Europa League success, be that the semis or however you want to gauge it, a place in the final or whatever. But it just seems to be hit or miss. And again, as you rightly point out, anybody in social media who was saying this would be my team, I don't think anybody didn't have Aaron Ramsey in their team.
Yeah. I mean, especially after the weekend, he got the goal against Celtic, and at that point I did start to feel, well, this is when we're going to start to see him. We're at the business end of the season. He's going to start to feature more. So for him not to feature last night was a bit strange. But I mean, we shouldn't focus too much, I think, on the negative. We should focus on the fact that the tie is very much still alive.
Yeah.
1-0. It's certainly a winnable tie. Come back to Ibrox, full house, crowd there. I mean, I think Rangers have got a really, really good chance. If they turn in a sort of Dortmund-like performance, then they've got a good chance. Obviously, there's a Morelos factor. We don't have him. We'll come on and talk about that a little bit later on. But, the only fear I've got about next week is I'm looking at Braga and think, well, they have to up it as well. They must be better than what they showed last night. Don't get me wrong. We saw wee glimpses here and there. But I think in an attacking sense, we've got to go for it next week. We've got to get the goal. So we'll probably leave a few pockets of space in behind for them to do the counter-attack and stuff. And that's my worry, if they're better than what they showed last night. But at the end of the day, if you were offered 1-0 against Braga at Ibrox with a chance of reaching the semi-final of the Europa League, you would have taken that every day of the week.
My worry would be, Colin, would be that Braga played their home tie in the same fashion as they would play the away tie, in terms of the defensive line and how they close Rangers down, the channels that Rangers might play through. I think if Braga do the same and, at Ibrox, then it could be a long and tearful night. Hopefully, I'm mistaken, and I hope that Rangers actually, pull something, one of these miracle performances, as you say, Dortmund-esque performance. But the longer we've gone over the last couple of weeks and the further away from those Dortmund games, the less I believe it.
It's. I mean, the Morelos thing obviously has a bearing, and it's the fact that this team just can't seem to defend at the moment. That's a worry. We just seem to concede. That's why I felt Rangers maybe needed a goal last night. But don't get me wrong, there's no way I'm conceding this tie. Absolutely no way. We've got a great opportunity, but there are just wee nagging doubts. I think the game last Sunday has sort of taken the wind out the sails a wee bit. Just a sort of kick in the teeth to the club, to the supporters, to the players, and there's just a sort of flatness about Rangers at the moment, and it feels like it's the worst possible time to get that. Coming up towards a huge game that could get us into a European semi-final for the first time since 2008. That said, come Thursday, you've got to be up for it. You've got to want it and be positive and sort of shout the team on and hope that'll be enough to sort of get them over the line.
It's that lethargy that I talked about. You know what I mean? It's appearing as if you know what you're supposed to be doing, but the inability to actually do it. I mean, Morelos would have made I've been a critic of his for quite a while, and I've kind of warmed to him a bit more in the last season or so. But I have to say, his performances in a European context, I mean, he turned into a real bully, the kind of striker that defenders don't want to be playing against. And I could see him. I honestly think he would have had a field day against the centre backs that Braga had, simply because he stopped being pushed around, he stopped falling down, he stopped, the sort of amateur dramatics and just get stuck in, and he's been a better player for it. Yeah. And I think we saw last night that maybe we saw it against Celtic. We definitely saw it last night that Rangers have missed him, and missed him over 2 matches, probably the 2 key matches of the season.
Yeah, the timing of it is, the biggest month of the season, and before we go into it, we lose the sort of talisman. In terms of how you're feeling about Thursday, do you think Rangers will get through? Are you feeling confident? Or
I still feel. I'll be honest. I've spent about the past 4 years explaining the away goal rule to my son about and I have all the time I've watched European football or understood European football, which is going back nearly 50 odd years. You'd always take the away goal rule into account, and right at this minute, I'm finding predicting what will happen in second legs almost impossible. You still have this mindset that if Rangers win 2-0, they're through, obviously, and that would have mattered, when that game was played. But even Rangers can still afford to go and chase the game, but can afford to actually concede a goal and still take it into extra time and penalties or whatever. And I do wonder if it's just me and maybe an age thing, or I do wonder if clubs and management within clubs and players within teams are still struggling with the concept that away goals don't count anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard somebody comment, one of the commentators last night on the West Ham Lyon game, and he was still talking as if this goal for Lyon could be all important, and that West Ham have it all to do now. Actually, they don't have anything to do. They could sit there and play for 0-0 and try and win the time penalties.
Yeah. I actually think it's made it worse. I think the away goal. I love the away goal rule. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've been on the wrong end of it a few times.
Oh yeah,
probably more times than not, because I still think it favours the bigger clubs. But there was no better feeling than getting that away goal and thinking, oh my God, this has totally changed the tie. And I remember the Shelburne game.
Yeah,
Rangers were 3-0 down.
Yeah, down. I was watching. I was actually watching Celtic against Intercable Tel. And somebody went on the phone and went, Shelburne are beating Rangers 3-0, and it's like, what? And it was almost like, well, they're not going to need many words from this game.
Aye, well,
yeah, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's that game was turned on its head, and you're right. Probably away goals have cost Rangers and probably cost a hell of a lot of Scottish clubs dearly.
Yeah,
over the years. But I mean, and just to add to that, I mean, I remember Graham, the whole thing about you play the away leg first, get a decent result, and then you can win the home leg. And I remember, sitting at dinner one night or with Graham Souness, and him explaining his theory was you wanted to play the first game at home because then you knew what you had to do in the second leg, whether that was scoring an away goal. And that he reckoned a bad result at home was if you conceded a goal. He reckoned that 0-0 was a great result because all you needed to do was score one goal in the away leg, and then the opposition had to score two. And if you fancy your chances of being able to defend, which I have to say is more than I would say about the current Rangers side, then you were as good as through. So, I still take Rangers to win the second leg and progress into the semi-finals, which would just be it would be unexpected and absolutely unbelievable at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, on that Shelburne game, I watched it in the house, and I'd say to my dad, I says, "Do you want to come up and watch it?" And he's like, "Oh, pub team, no coming up to watch that, right?" So I phoned him when it was 1-0. I was like, "They're not 1-0." He's like, "Oh, plenty of time." I phoned him at 2-0, and I was like, "We're 2-0 up. We're really struggling." "Oh, it's fine." And I phoned him at 3-0, and he's like, "For fuck's sake, you're going to stop phoning me every time you phone me, we're another goal down." And when I was on the phone to him, I says, "We're really struggling here." I says, "Oh, wait, now I've got a penalty." And I was like, "Yes, Alberts has scored it. We've got an away goal." And as soon as I said it, I'm like, "This is Shelburne we're playing." And I'm talking about getting an away goal. You know what I mean? Obviously, we went on to win that game 5-3, but I just remember celebrating an away goal because we're 3-1 down and then thinking, this is bin men and bloody, civil servants we're playing against here. I shouldn't be celebrating an away goal. But we got through anyway. And I think it's a bit worse now without the away goal. I think it added an extra level of jeopardy. I think it made it more interesting.
Just to change tack. Were you at the away scene teenage fan club? I never noticed that.
Wednesday night,
yeah. Just handily placed over your left shoulder.
Well, I've always got like a Rangers jersey there, and I thought, right, I know they're technically for Bells Hill, but they are a bit of a Glasgow fan. And I know they're Celtic fans as well, but they're decent guys, and they're no bitter about it or anything like that. I've got a lot of time for them. So yeah. I got a mug as well. A proper fanboy on Wednesday, coming home with my t-shirt and my mug. So yeah, good stuff.
Did they sign anything for you, like your chest or your arm?
No. I've got a couple of vinyl things there that I want to get signed, and I've got a means of doing that, so I'll need to do it. I've got a bit of time for Teenage Fan Club, so I just thought I'd change Friday night, bit different from the usual top hanging in the background. So
just to prove this is live, Newcastle have just scored.
Have they? What's the score?
1-0.
1-0. Who they playing?
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Oh, that was very 70s of you there. Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Mate.
Right, on to Sunday's game in Paisley. I mean, I don't think we can deny that Sunday's really, as I said earlier on, a proper kick in the teeth. It feels like at the end of the season we'll look back and that was maybe going to be the defining result, the result that pretty much took the league title away for us. But mathematically, it's still possible, still plenty to play for. But there's every chance we're going into this game on Sunday afternoon. We'll be 9 points behind probably. So I mean, from that perspective, if I've got any hope of turning this round, then a win's vital.
Yeah, I don't think Rangers can get feeling sorry for themselves or they're 9 points behind. You've still got to get your head down and get the job done, and and play out the season as best you can. And again, hoping. I mean, last Sunday's result means that not only are you hoping for a miracle, you're now hoping for two or even several miracles.
Yeah. For snookers anyway, that's the best way of putting it.
Yeah, and I don't really see, I don't see Celtic the way they're playing just now, conceding that quite as easily as quite a few Rangers fans would hope. But Rangers have still got a job to do, and as I say, they can't be going into this game saying, "Well, we lost last week. All is lost. Let's concentrate and focus in Europa League." Doesn't quite work that way, and you would hope that there would be a response and a reaction from the Rangers players. And as much as we got it wrong last week, we may even got it wrong in midweek. Let's give the fans something, a bit of hope and something to cheer about, and also give ourselves a bit of belief back after the last couple of results, and put in a shift, put in a performance, and get a result. And I think a great many Rangers fans are not looking for 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. 1-0 would be enough, and a convincing enough 1-0 victory would, I think would please quite a few people.
Well, I would take a 4 or a 5, I must admit, but because it seems like a long time since we've done that. You know what I mean? It just feels to me like for the turn of the year, every game we've been getting into the last sort of 5-10 minutes, looking for a winning goal. And I'm of a certain age now, Stuart. My ticker can't take that stress. The odd routine win every now and again is good for your health, I think. So I would take that on Sunday, definitely. In terms of the squad, Gio gave an update today. There's no new injuries outside the ones we know about. Obviously, Alfie, Hadji, those guys. But you would imagine, again, going back to last night's starting 11, if you're looking at it and sort of trying to understand why he picked that team, you would think, well, it's because he's going to pick a completely different team today, and have players available for next Thursday and next Sunday. Because I think we are in the week that is going to define Rangers' season. Because if we win against Braga, we go into the semi-final on Sunday, bullish, and we're in a European semi-final for the first time in 14 years or something like that.
Mm.
If we lose against Braga, we know we're going into that game against Celtic next week with pretty much the season hanging on that one game. So I think we will see changes in the lineup on Sunday. I think Roof will start. Ironically, I think Ramsey's going to come in and start. What about you? Do you think we can see a few changes in the team?
I honestly don't know. There's a bit of me, Colin, wonders whether Van Bronckhorst has sufficient levels of confidence in some players. I would say that, Rangers are missing Morelos through injury, but other players have their season has tailed off, not at the end of the season, but almost like 3/4 through a season, it's tailed off, and the performance levels just haven't been there. And I'd also, in predicting who Van Bronckhorst might pick or might select, I still think, Rangers lost Patterson, and everybody went, "Oh, that's great money," without really bringing in anybody else. I know there were a couple of signings, but you see what I mean? Not to the same level. No another Scottish international right back they didn't bring in. And I just think there's, if you look at how well Rangers were playing up until a certain point in time, Stephen Davis was having a pretty decent season again, and all of a sudden he just slipped by to the wayside. And I just think that there's one or two guys like that. The midfield currently, he seems pretty set on having certain starters. But I don't think Aribo or Kent have really shown anything like what you would expect. I mean, I was speaking to somebody today, and he said that Aribo was still making his way back from the African Cup of Nations, and he certainly left something out there, whatever it was. Yeah. And I think Kent as well. And I'll always defend wingers just because of the kind of breed that they are. They have on days and off days, and sometimes they have their days when they're really on it and other days when they're really off it. And it's, it's a hit or a miss sometimes. And I just think that Kent is just, whether he's trying too hard, I'm not sure, or whether he's trying not to make any mistakes and be criticised for making those mistakes. But I think I'd much prefer him to see him getting the ball at his feet and actually doing what he does best, or at least trying to do what he does best. And if it doesn't come off for him, I think people would understand that more than saying, why are you just playing a square pass? Why are you knocking the ball back? Why you try to play a 1-2 that isn't there, because you're going to have to run 40 yards just to get another ball. So all in all, predicting who Van Bronckhorst will go with on Sunday, I think you might find that he will pick his strongest side, simply because he knows that Rangers still need that momentum, and then take his chances in midweek.
Yeah, on the Ryan Kent thing, it's been something I've been commenting on for probably last month or so that he's just not scoring enough goals. I was looking at the stats the other day. Scott Wright has scored as many goals as Ryan Kent in the league this season, which I think tells you everything that you need to know. I think it's 2 league goals he's scored all season, which is really disappointing. Now, in terms of St Mirren, I was having a wee look at their form today. Played 32, won 8, drawn 12, lost 12. They're sitting in 10th position, which would usually make you think, they're, cannon fodder, they're up for a thrashing or whatever. But they're on 36 points, which is only 2 points off a place in the top 6. You've got that glut of teams that, so, they've got something to play for. It's not like they're at the point of the season where, I think they're safe from relegation. They're 6 points clear of the bottom 2. So I think, obviously they won't feel that. They'll want to make sure that they're going to get enough points to stay out it. But you're looking at it and thinking, yeah, they're probably not going to be part of that relegation battle. But it's not like they're cut adrift for the top 6 and they've got nothing to play for. They have a lot to play for on Sunday. And they've only got, their win rate is only 25%, but they've drawn 12. So they are capable of causing us problems, and they are capable of, pouring on a wee bit more misery.
Those draws, that's something that Rangers can ill afford. And I think St Mirren there's a kind of stuffiness about them. You can hit them quite hard and they won't really go down. You know what I mean? And I think this is a strange season, as you rightly point out there, and as much as the kind of difference and disparity between the top of the table and the bottom of the table, and the sort of gap between the top 2 and the bottom 2, and then you've got everybody else in between. It's made it a real kind of mishmash, and you're right. Whereas normally at this time of the season, there's some guys just running about with the flip flops on and their Thomas Cook folder under their arm.
One eye in Mallorca.
I don't think that applies this season.
I think the nature of those teams. I think it's from sort of 5th or 6th place down to 10th. There's only 2-3 points separating them. So yeah, obviously we're about to go into the split, and that's not going to be an issue anymore. But you would normally be going into a game against a team in 10th place thinking, well, they've not really got much to play for. We'll maybe get them on a day when, as you say, they've got one eye in the holiday brochures. But that's not going to be the case on Sunday.
No, and again, I think you see some of the teams and how they've performed. Some have punched above their weight, and others have just been happy to trade punches with those in and around them. I think the fact that there has been that separation between the bottom team and then the team that will, be in the playoff, and then the ones above them, I think that's given some teams a cushion whereas before they might actually go out and try and be defensive and just try and play just to get a draw. I think the kind of pressure's been alleviated a wee bit, and as much as we can still take this game to different teams, and in Sunday that could be St Mirren saying that when they're playing Rangers. And again, Rangers are the champions. Rangers are a big draw. Rangers are the team that everybody will still want to beat because they are the defending champions. So this is far from 3 points guaranteed, especially with the way that Rangers have played and especially defended this season.
Yeah, the defence is an issue, but there's also a new problem now, and I think this is the point we should finish on. The Morelos factor that we were talking about earlier on. We never had him last week. Obviously, Aaron Ramsey got the goal, but you would have to argue that for all the possession Rangers had in the second half against Celtic last week, they never really looked like they were capable of breaking down Celtic. And you could kind of argue it was a wee bit like that last night. I thought Rangers started well, and that's something that's really annoying me now. Rangers, we start well every game and then just fade away. But that's another thing entirely. But again, towards the end of the game last night, we had a lot of possession, chapping at the door, but you just felt there just wasn't enough there to break Braga down. So it's a conundrum that needs a solution. So how do Rangers deal with this? How does Gio find a way to get this team scoring again without their main striker?
I have never known any Rangers side or any set of Rangers players who have almost, been loathed to have a dig at goal. Ali McCoy scored 355 goals for Rangers. He probably had somewhere in the region of about 2,500 attempts on goal. Yeah. But even when it wasn't working for him, he still took a chance. And, every now and again, one would go in. I was watching some footage of European games. You remember Rangers the last time they reached a European final and they beat Werder Bremen. Remember the shot that Kusan had out of absolutely nothing, just had a dig at it, and the goalkeeper blundered and Rangers got a goal out of it. Mm-hmm. But that was somebody taking a chance, taking a punt, and it almost seems as if they're frightened of the criticism, which can be stinging at times. Let's not kid ourselves, but it's almost as if they're frightened to miss, and they're almost scared to fail. It reminds me of watching Arsenal a couple of seasons ago, where they played really pretty football, worked themselves into into certain areas, and then just wouldn't pull the trigger.
Try to walk it in. That was the accusation that was ended on.
It was, and I think maybe Rangers hadn't been close enough to walk it in. But it's sometimes you've got to back yourself. I mean, the one you referenced earlier, Sakala. I mean, that was a great cut outside the guy, and he shot. Not too many guys will smile as much missing the goal by about 12 yards, but at least that was something that he tried. He was trying to score, and I think the frustration most of the season, in fact, maybe even in the last couple of seasons, are that not enough of these guys are willing to, have a go. Not everybody's going to be as clinical as maybe Morelos, or certainly not many are going to be as clinical as a McCoist or a Jelavic or something like that. But they guys backed themselves. I mean, it was if they get a chance to get in a position where they could have a shot, they were going to take that shot on by hook or by crook. And I just think there's too many of them are thinking we can't give up possession here. If I have a shot, we could lose possession and it could come back and bite us. So I'll just pass an aimless ball either sideways, back the way. I mean, somebody tweeted last night, Rangers in possession, side, back, forward, back, side. For that's never going to bring you goals. Not unless you've got a couple of world beaters up front. Not unless you've got like Lewandowski and Gabriel Bastos up front. You might score then, but no the players that Rangers have available to them. And I think, I just wish, given who they've got in the coaching staff in terms of Roy Mackay, I mean, there's a guy that must have taken a punt on himself as well. So surely he can instill a bit of confidence or a bit of belief that if you want to score goals or you want Rangers to win matches, you need to take a chance.
Yeah, I just wonder if Gio maybe needs to tinker the system a wee bit as well, because given the personnel, I mean, we all know that Alfie could bully teams and he links the play up and brings others in. I'm just not convinced that Roof or Sakala are those types, and so I just think we need to find a different way of doing it. But that is, I'm not entirely sure.
But I was reading some, like Rangers have lost Morelos. In 93, Rangers lost McCoist and still completed the treble. Why? Yeah. Now, there is nobody in this side is a Mark Hateley, and there is nobody in this team who is an Ian Durrant. But Rangers found a way of, playing Hateley up top himself and Durrant running in support. And people will say, a couple of years later, remember Valencia with John Carew and Aymar and how they made that work, and that was revolutionary. To be honest, needs must. Walter Smith was doing that in 93 with Rangers, and it was terribly effective. And I just think sometimes you just have to, use what you've got available to you. And it might just be, who knows, it might be playing Roof with Ramsey right up behind him, because he can play as an attacking player or an attacking force, or some permutation that just gives you more options. Because I still think that there is not, whilst Morelos is missed all season, there hasn't been enough support coming from the next three.
Yeah.
Be that through poor form or guys in the case of like Hadji just not being fit.
Yeah, I suppose we'll find out on Sunday. 12 o'clock, I think it's on Sky Sports. I believe it's on Sky Sports. And we'll find out then. Anyway, so a big thanks to Stewart Weir. Great stuff as always. We were live tonight on the Friday night. But the show will be available to download and stream on a variety of platforms from tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all your regular places. We're back on Sunday night, obviously, to cover the game at Paisley. It'll be myself, John McCallum, and Gary Valentine on. So tune in to that at 9:30 on Sunday night on the YouTube. In the meantime, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. Until